continue. So that's interesting to note, right? Like, and they're doing that on purpose. It's not a mistake. All assets activated against Nigel Farage. Yep, that's absolutely what's going on. Mayor Nenshi has been able to win the NDP leadership, and because he's won the NDP leadership, well, I'm a little suspect about the whole leadership race. So, is there foreign interference in the NDP leadership race? I'll let you decide. I don't know. I don't know where the interference comes from, to be honest with you, but it seems like there is interference. Really, here is there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to start with Mayor of Toronto Olivia Chow dancing worse than Elaine, if you can believe that, with a drag queen. I know it's early on a Sunday morning. I'm sorry. I saw this and I thought, holy smoke, she's a terrible dancer. She's a terrible, awful dancer. Oh my gosh, she has absolutely no rhythm. And what is happening? Like, Toronto, there are violent protests. There are trucks driving around with all sorts of interesting messaging on it. And the interesting messaging is being critical of policies that are either law enforcement is not enforcing the law, law enforcement is allowing people to take over roadways, take over parks, take over all sorts of things. And Olivia Chow is not they're renaming city streets, they're renaming squares to things that people can't even say. And Mayor Chow, instead of dealing with this or listening to the constituents who are upset about this, she's dancing with drag queens. And I don't know where this is, but it's very, very strange and off-putting. Here we go. No rhythm whatsoever. Look at this. I'm sorry that I'm doing this to you on a Sunday morning. Is she having a seizure? Is she okay? I don't... That's it. That's enough. There's another 30 seconds of this. What? Like, this is not what the mayor of Toronto should be doing. Can you imagine? Mel Lastman would be able to actually be on beat, right? He'd be able to dance to the We Are Family, but he probably wouldn't dance with the drag queen. Fingers crossed. John Tory would. John Tory would put money in its G-string. So, okay, Nenshi. We've got to talk about the NDP because, wow, Nenshi got into the leadership race after leaving the mayor's job. He went and worked at a university for a little while. And when he went to work at the university, I said, just wait. When Rachel Notley steps down, he'll step in and take over the NDP. And that's exactly what happened. True North is reporting the Alberta NDP membership elected former Calgary Mayor Nenshi to lead their party and Alberta's official opposition in a resounding victory on Saturday. So there you go. Big, huge victory, right? Janice Irwin says Alberta's NDP announced new leader. After an exciting leadership race, the Alberta NDP has announced Nenshi as the new leader of the party. It reminds me of Newman. Remember in Seinfeld? Hello, Newman. Right? Nenshi. So we'll see. But the thing that sticks out about this whole thing to me, if we scroll down to in the announcement here, down here, well, first, across the candidates, this is the number of votes each candidate got, other than Nenshi. Okay, Kathleen Gangley got 5,899 votes. Sarah Hoffman got 3,063 votes. Jody Calahoo Stonehouse, received 1,222 votes. And before the leadership race began in Alberta, the NDP had 16,224 members. By the end of the leadership race, eligible voting members grew to 85,227 people. Of eligible voting members, 85% cast their ballot by noon on June 22nd, and Nenshi got 62,746 votes. Wow. So that's pretty crazy, right? So before Nenshi joins the NDP's leadership race contenders, and before all of this happens, they have 16,000 members. Then Nenshi joins and they have 86,000 or 85,000 members. 85,000 members? Like, they grew by 70,000 people, and that many people voted for Naheed Nenshi? Wow. Pretty crazy. Well, they added 70,000 people, and 62,000 of them voted for Naheed Nenshi? Wow. I'm shocked. So, does that seem to you like a completely above board election that totally makes sense and in no way sounds rigged? You let me know in the comments what you think. But I think, that's weird, right? Here is Underboob Jess, and she says, I can't wait for Nenshi to run on his impeccable political record. Calgary business owners who lived through his reign sure won't forget. So here is one, the social school, property tax on our building last week, $1,500 a month. This week, $6,400 a month, a 427% increase for 2 tenants. So that's very expensive. 2014 property taxes, $23,700. 2018, $68,180. Here's another one. Property taxes, 2014, $74,000. 2019, $208,000. This is for a grocery store. Great food, maybe? Grocery store? Oh no, maybe it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant. $208,000. I was going to say, what are the margins on that grocery store? Property tax 2009 $12,000, 2014 $23,000, 2018 $68,000, 2019 $75,000. We are being taken over through our elected positions, and those positions, they've taken over our elections. Our elections are absolutely destroyed, and Nenshi is allowed to walk in, and you know what he's going to do provincially, right? Exactly what he did to the city of Calgary. Nenshi says, what an incredible day. I'm humbled and honored to lead the Alberta NDP into its next era. Feels like coming home. Yeah, I'm sure. So there's that. What do you think about that? Do you think that Mr. Nenshi won that fair and square? He signed up all those people, or is that maybe a little hinky, right? How many of those people are living in Canada? Or living in Alberta? Andy Lee says, let's move on to the other by-election going on. Here is the Toronto St. Paul. It's not Park. It's Toronto St. Paul. And that is happening on June 24th. So that's tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting. And Leslie Church, who's the Liberal candidate, says, let's build a bright future for our Toronto St. Paul's community together on Monday, June 24th. Let's make a plan to come out and vote. And Andy Lee says, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland's policy director, Leslie Church, yes, the same person, the candidate that we're talking about, has agreed to an ethics screen to manage potential conflict of interest involving Seamus Murphy, her lobbyist husband, who regularly meets with senior federal officials on behalf of corporate clients. Mr. Murphy is registered to lobby the Liberal government in relation to several major sectors with active policy files, including broadcasting. Now, this is a safe Liberal seat. It would be a huge political earthquake if anybody but a Liberal won this seat. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. PPC is out. Maxime Bernier is there. He says, we're on our way to meet the people of Toronto St. Paul's ahead of Monday's by-election. Let's go, Dennis, for the PPC team. So there you go. He's out there canvassing, and they've got a team out there doing what they can do. So we'll see. We'll see who wins. I'm not sure if the Conservative candidate has any kind of chance. Maybe, but I'll let you know. It's probably going to be the Liberal candidate with the lobbyist husband. That's really who Canada wants to lead them. Insiders, more insiders, please. Give me my tax rebates. Naya says, CSIS confirmed. Let's talk about treason briefly. CSIS confirms the INSICOP report saying treason is taking place in government was prevented from seeing all the evidence available. CSIS confirms the Liberal government withheld evidence due to cabinet confidence for all foreign interference investigations. So he lists 4 interference investigations. So this China thing, which we've known about since, I really picked up the story in March 23, I guess, but we've known about it since November 22, right? That it started, and then it's gotten worse progressively since then, and nothing's been done except for special rapporteurs and public inquiries that have come back completely nothing. Absolutely above board. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about here, except there is a lot to worry about here because it seems there's traitors operating in our government at every single level. Right, and in police stations. And there's a recent Liberal MP who decided not to run for re-election who says exactly the same thing. And the reason, and he says, we've got to come to grips with what China's doing. They want to make us into a vassal state, right? Here is all of this.
taken by CSIS here was shared with that NCCOP report?
Yes, NCCOP certainly had access to any and all service information outside of some which were redacted for cabinet confidences. They also had all the information that was given to the Independent Special Rapporteur when he was doing his review. The same information has gone to the National Security Review Agency as well as the public inquiry. So there's 4 separate reviews.
There's all these reviews, and man, they just can't find anything at all whatsoever. NDP. So with the backdrop of all of that, Jagmeet Singh could drop this government with a vote like that, lickety split, right? If there's treason in government, we should stop it and name the names and not allow them to stand for re-election. Obviously, I think that's like step 1 in solving the problem, right? Instead, Jagmeet Singh is targeting corporate greed. NDP says Justin Trudeau has given corporations too much power. Pierre Poilievre wants to give them more. Jagmeet will stand between corporate greed and your wallet. The grocery store costs more now than it did in 2015. And these people are not helping us. And they're actively harming us and telling us that they're helping us while they're actively harming us. And they're clearly not doing what you should do if you suspect treason in the government. And so that's weird. It's weird that there isn't more of a push to remove these people from government, from the general everyday Canadian public. I feel like part of the reason for that is we're being assaulted on so many different levels. Like if you watch media, you're in a constant state of being under attack because the stories told are framing things in a way that is kind of faulty and make things seem, well, I don't watch current TV because it's not entertaining and it seems like propaganda, right? Like it's very, very, their ideologues just, like, have you watched the new Star Wars? I watched a video that explains the first 3 episodes because I heard it was terrible and I didn't want to invest any time in it, in actually watching it. And it is just meant to demoralize you, right? And so on a whole bunch of different levels, we are being attacked. And I think people are just internalizing that in, I'm ineffective, I can't do anything about this anyway, I might as well just, do my best to get by and keep my head down to stay out of trouble and, get by, basically. So that's kind of what I feel like is going on. This series of tabs is kind of a contrast between what's going on currently compared to what's gone on and how people are reacting to it. And to kind of set the stage here, White Rabbit shares this quote: Mao attacked farmers, Stalin attacked farmers, now world governments are attacking farmers. It's the same group throughout history. It's a playbook. It's not a chance happening. Wake up. So yeah, I think that there's something to that. Mark says, this is the 392nd time, I'm not kidding, that the Ministry of Defense in England has tweeted that Russia's invasion of Ukraine was unprovoked. And here it is again. Illegal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine is continuing. The map below is the latest defense intelligence update on the situation. So they're really, really trying to frame it that way. And that's notable. There's a reason for that. And there's, hold on, there was one more tweet in that section I wanted to talk about. Here it is. Max continues. He says, the thesis of the war being unprovoked is very strategic. It whitewashes the role of NATO expansion, meddling in the Maidan uprisings and siding with far-right extremists in the Civil War. Not only does it exonerate America, but it helps vilify Russia and sell the war as wholly good. Yeah, we're being manipulated to view it through a specific lens through this kind of use of propaganda, right? Unprovoked, unprovoked. We're the victim. We are the victim. Nobody else is the victim. We're the victim. And if you don't agree we're the victim, you're the problem, right? And that's insidious. If somebody were waging war against Canada, trying to weaken our military, weaken our ability to feed ourselves and be self-sustaining, weaken our ability to respond to an attack, reduce the number of men able and capable of standing up against a foreign invader or an invader of malicious invader, somebody who's meant to do harm, do you think that they would do anything different than what they're doing now? Honestly, here is Kat Canada. She was out in Victoria. She says, walking the downtown Douglas Street in woke Victoria was like walking through a zombie movie. This was just one block, but this was everywhere. And why are all liberal cities like this? I just turned off the sound. You guys watched me turn off the sound? Yeah, people are hunched over, sitting around, doing drugs, doing injectables. The place looks like trash, right? The city looks like garbage. People are high. There's garbage, not everywhere, but it's enough that it's uncomfortable, right? I remember going around Toronto in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, and one of the big pushes was to clean up the city and get the homeless people treatment and have beds, shelter beds and things like that, to make sure that homeless people weren't all over the street and making things difficult for citizens there, but also difficult for themselves, so on and so forth. And they did clean it up, and they did they did put money into that kind of stuff. And the woke ideology has done nothing but reverse all of that and normalize it, make it like, if you want to live like that, that's fine. If you want to live in on a tent on Yonge Street in front of a business, it's the business's fault for being capitalist that caused your problem, and they deserve it. It's like, what? It's upside down and crazy. Here's Rex, and he says, there's nothing insane enough for failed media parasites to support in the name of Trudeau. Carol McNeil says, this doctor is defending herself from attacks by CPC leader Polyev, who is calling her a radical liar who's in the pocket of Trudeau. Conservatives want her to testify again. She says, bring it on. This woman lied about safe supply. So like how the drugs are destroying our cities. The governments are providing them. We're paying for them with tax dollars. I've been banging the drum on this forever. In Guelph, we spend $1 million to give addicts drugs. How does that help? It doesn't help. It locks people into an addictive death spiral, basically. And she says she knows kids are accessing government drugs, free drugs, tax paid for drugs through black market channels, and she's not willing to change anything. At what point do you stop bad policy? If your goal with the policy is to save lives and you end up killing more people than you save, how many people can you kill before you change the policy, right? Or was the goal all along to kill people? Here is this doctor.
Do you agree that it's possible that diverted opioids are ending up in the hands of people that they aren't prescribed to, or even children? Yes or no?
We have no evidence that they are ending up in the hands of children. We have no scientific data that supports those assertions.
I'm not going to stand up here and say that some kids, some adolescents are not accessing diverted safe supply and using diverted safe supply. Kids experiment with everything, and we need to be honest to ourselves that kids probably experiment with diverted safer supply as well.
Do you agree that it's possible that diverted...
But she doesn't have any scientific evidence to back that up in the House of Commons. So she's misleading people in the House of Commons, and they want her to come back and testify, but she says bring it on, but whatever. The whole thing, fundamentally, I think is a bad failed policy that has caused harm, and we're not doing anything to fix it, and that's terrible. And that's true across a whole bunch of different policy buckets. Here's Efren, and he's sharing, I think it's he, sharing Alexander Lavoie's thing. Efren says, officers who openly betray the oath they take to protect the public are committing treason against those they supposedly serve to protect. Our anarcho-tyranny is now what Montreal lives in. And Alexander says, I was assaulted by Antifa thugs. I was assaulted, sprayed with paint, and harassed. A gentleman tried to defend me, but the police fled and refused to protect us. So we'll just listen to the first little bit of this. She's walking down the street. She's shaken up. She looks okay, but she's not happy. Here we go.
So, small update of what just happened. You can see going currently at the police station because to feel a complaint against the police, and of course like the people who literally attacked and harassed us for just doing our job and just taking some footage of the new encampment. You see I have like paint everywhere. So stay tuned for my report because I'm going to explain to you how literally the police officer told me that they would not protect us literally running away from us when I had like multiple Antifa running towards me, trying to hit me with their umbrella and paint me.
What would the police officers do if she said, "Officers, I'm going to kill them"? Or something to that effect, or like, "I feel like I'm going to kill them," or something to that. Would they then have to respond? I think that maybe I would record the officers running away, right? Like that's not good. She's Rebel News, so I hope that she'd have a camera. Hopefully there's footage of this whole thing. I haven't watched the whole report. I just saw that yesterday. It's not good, right? It's not good when thugs are there to intimidate people who are trying to report on things. And thugs are there also to intimidate people who are wanting to vote for a different party like PPC or whatever, even the Conservative Party. But I think the Conservative Party, it's just kind of, they're putting on a bit of a show. But I haven't been to any of the outings, so I don't know. Kim.com says, please invest 25 minutes of your time to watch this and understand the U.S. proxy war in Ukraine. Obama, Biden, Clinton, Nuland, and the CIA staged a coup in Ukraine, which launched a civil war. The ethnic Russian population of Ukraine refused to accept the unelected leaders chosen by the U.S. After 15,000 were killed by Ukrainian forces, Russia stepped in to liberate the victim regions, and they joined Russia by referendum. Over 1 million people died in the U.S. proxy war. It was neither unprovoked nor a Russian aggression, as the Western media wants to make you believe. Both Ukraine and Russia are victims of the geopolitical games by the U.S. government and their Western allies. Signing the association agreement with the EU would put Ukraine on a path to strengthening the sort of stable and predictable business environment that investors require. That's what the coup manager Nuland promised the Ukrainians, but now Ukraine is wrecked. A generation of young men are dead, and the world is facing nuclear war. The U.S. instigators of this tragedy are living their lives in mansions on Hawaii and in Washington, D.C., while millions suffer consequences of their hegemonic arrogance. Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and their puppets in the EU are human garbage, just like George Bush and Tony Blair, who killed 1 million Iraqis based on lies. The collapse of the U.S. empire and its vassals can't come soon enough. And he's talking about, this guy says, skeptic of everything, says, will the collapse happen though? And Kim.com says, the multipolar order is working on it. It won't be long. And so that's, I mean, maybe, but as I said, that would be bad for chocolate cereal. Further, here is Brittany, and she says, take a cruise with me through Braddon rest stop. It's been cleared out multiple times, so this is actually an improvement. British Columbia off the Trans-Canada Highway 1 in Abbotsford. She's driving by trailers parked.
Are abandoned, burnt out, shit like that.
I wonder why burnt out.
The smell in here is like something like almost burnt hair. Like I said, British Columbia, this is the only rest stop, in fact, in the Fraser Valley. So it's quite alarming.
So yeah, there's lots. I'm interested in why there's burnt out, like why the campers are burnt out. Is there conflict, or like does a fire start? The camper gets burnt out, people just leave, I guess, maybe. Who knows? But again, people are under so much pressure that they're pulling campers into rest stops because that's better than any other option they've got. And that's not the Canada that I grew up in, that's for sure. And how could we as a society say, we're sorry about you having to live your life in a camping van or in a camper on a rest station in Abbotsford, British Columbia. But the real priority here is to bring in more Palestinians, because the Palestinians are having a real hard time with that whole war thing happening there, right? Like, how is this not an attack on us? We have to spend money on Palestinians, but we can't spend money to help our fellow Canadians. We can't spend money to reduce the cost of housing. We can't stop immigration to reduce the demand side of the supply and demand curve, right? Like, we can't do any of those things because reasons. So you've got to continue, you Canadians, spending money on these foreign people while suffering yourselves directly. Like, how does that make any sense? It's an attack on us. Son of a Bench says, this is Denmark. Canada, they're coming for you. Are you ready? The last 4 days, I've been showing you different places in Canada where exactly this same show of force has been happening, in the middle of streets, taking over public squares in Montreal and Toronto and Mississauga, taking over the streets. And here are Muslims praying in Denmark. Same thing. Weird, right? So is this something I often talk about, playing a football game and the other team's like racking up touchdowns, and we're standing around going, man, this seems like a dangerous thing, or this seems like they're really celebrating about all these touchdowns. We're standing around as Christians or as a secular nation, democratic secular nation, standing around going, what do you think this means, everybody? And then somebody comes in and says, this is what this means. And the people who don't want to believe it say, no, that's racist. And then all of a sudden we find out, oh yeah, that is exactly what it means. Holy smoke. Communists rename everything. So in Edmonton, this is yet another attack. It's just kind of, if you think of a kaleidoscope, right? You turn the kaleidoscope and everything looks different again. It's the same attack. It's the same kaleidoscope, but it's just turned a little bit slightly. And the vector of attack is just a little bit different. Jim McMurtry says, 911 operator, quick, which ward are you in? 911 operator. What? I can't even say this, right? So Edmonton's ward names changed in 2021. And I missed this because I think I would remember reporting on this, but I don't remember reporting on this at all. If there's video of me reporting on this, holy smoke. But I don't remember this at all. I just learned about this yesterday and I was saying, when did this happen? 2021. So the new ward names, formerly Ward 1 is Nakotas Iska. Oh my gosh. Ward 2 is, I don't think I can get through them all. This is CTV News, and they have how to say it helpers pronounced Nahotaiska. This one is called Anurknik. What ward are you in? Anurknik. Fundamentally, I think that if we went back in time and there were teepees or whatever, and a First Nations person came up to another First Nations person and they said, what ward are you in? They'd say Ward 1. They wouldn't say Anuknik, I don't think, unless Anuknik means Ward 1, but I don't think so, or Ward 2. And they don't. Like, they're using, it's whatever word meaning breath of life. Like, they wouldn't say, where's your teepee, man? Breath of life? Like, I don't think so. Maybe not. Maybe they would. I don't know. I'm not a First Nation person way back when, right? But all of this seems batshit to me. Like, if you're voting, making it confusing is counter to the goal, right? Right? And having these names that are completely unpronounceable for most of the population, including First Nations people, come on. Like, it doesn't make sense. There's a Métis ward. What happens if one ward wants to invade another ward? What if the Métis ward wants to take over the O'Day Min ward? Right? Like, is there going to be a problem with that? Or is that just fine because they can do whatever they want? Right? Like, let's not look at history. Unprovoked. It was unprovoked. We didn't do anything. We were just sitting around. Unbelievable. So I think all of that kind of stuff is like a tsunami, right? Like, the person who realizes and understands what the water going away means and says, run, there's a tsunami. And the people go, oh yeah, okay, buddy, the water's going away. So like, I'm sure there's going to be a big wave. I don't believe you. I'm going to sit here and drink my Mai Tai. And then it turns out the guy who's worried about things is right. And maybe he's fine, but the whole community is destroyed, right? It doesn't help. Here is Pierre Poilievre. And I said, yesterday I asked, why do we have to worry about regime change in Iran? It seems like we're going through a regime change in Canada from, democracy, a tyranny of the majority, to tyranny of communists. Here's Pierre Poilievre saying, Canada's conservatives are going to stand with you guys through this regime change in Iran. This is a whole back and forth between this interviewer, who's Iranian, and Pierre Poilievre, and she says, if you had the Iranian people's ear, what would you say?
Keep pressuring governments to sanction the regime in Iran, to criminalize its actions, to isolate it on the world stage, to cut it off from global economic markets. That's the way we're going to bring this regime down. We need a regime change in Tehran, and it will only happen if the people keep the faith and keep fighting. It's a long journey, but conservatives will be with you all through that journey, right to the successful victory.
Mr. Poilievre.
What? Like, just like we're going to be with the Ukrainians till they successfully beat Russia? No. How about we stop spending money on foreign wars that are not our responsibility. Tehran regime change? And isn't that kind of aggressive? If somebody around the world, right, if Modi was talking with somebody else saying, you know, those Canadians, we're really sick and tired of them. We've got to, and I mean, like, honestly, I'm sick and tired of Justin Trudeau. So we need a regime change in Canada. I'm advocating for the regime change of Justin Trudeau. But if a foreign government were plotting a regime change and plotting to put their own, you know, friendly people in there, like, we really don't like that Canadian government. We should get a government that's friendly to India and our interests, and we're going to do everything we can to do that. We'll fight to the end, you know, to make sure that Canada's regime change is friendly to Canadian needs. We'll fight with you Canadian people to make that happen. Isn't that election interference? Isn't that bad? Don't we not like that? Isn't that not what we should be engaging in? Like, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? No, that's not what we're doing anymore. It's an old adage, but checks out. Seems weird, right? Here's Barrie City Hall. Salma Sima says, right now, Barrie, Ontario, raising the lion and sun flag, the true Iranian flag, in front of City Hall. May Iran be free soon. Is everybody on board with this? Did I miss a memo? Are we all like, Iran regime change, let's go. What? The Buckywell says, F Barrie City Hall, no foreign flag should ever be above or in place of the maple leaf, ever. Shame on Barrie. I think it's still a regular warfare. I think we're watching a regular warfare. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful